grab our handy dandy paper mache paste, which has been lingering around. Just do effectively what you did with the outside of the pumpkin. Paint your paste on. Paint your paste all the way around the outside too. You can paper mache directly onto paper clay with no consequences. Paper loves paper. And it doesn't give a damn. And when it's slathered, you just grab yourself a handful of paper strips. Thinner paper strips work better for this stage. They don't branch around so much. So if you got big, thick covering strips like this, tear them in half. Possibly in half again. And start macheing your heart out. It's not as bad as the layering stage. The only thing we want here is kind of one layer of mache in order to give our paper clay purchase on this shape. Another thing that it's not a bad idea to do for additional strength is take your stem, even if you put a layer already on the outside, wrap it. Just as if you were wrapping it with, oh, say, masking tape. Just make sure if you do wrap it that whatever backside you get to has a layer of mache paste on it so it'll stick to itself. Now what you're looking at. When you get to the upper sections, you will be wrapping almost exclusively, because there's not a whole lot of another way you can get onto these twisted, stalky projections. In this case, it might not be a bad idea to go old school mache method. Dip your whole strip into the paste, then proceed to wrap it. Our whole strip goes in the paste. Unfortunately, so does your hand. Wipe off the glue. If you have a fan on you at the same time, expect it to go all over the place. Good. And wrap your well-pasted strip around. As I said, it is more messy, but you're going to be painting all over it anyway. Let's try a different take on this. My table will sustain a little bit of extra mache. I'll try painting this side right on the table surface. Yeah. It'll leave the table sticky. Let's see. I'm curious to know. That stuff will just dry later and then it'll flake off and really not be a huge cleanup issue. Is this any better? That's not bad. I feel like I have a little bit better purchase on the paper when I do that. Let's try it again. Yeah, that's the method I like. Alright, that's well wrapped. this is well wrapped. That's well wrapped. And make sure no areas are projecting up. I'm going to let this sucker dry. And then we get to go absolutely bat-spit crazy on it with paper clay, which is hugely fun. So the stem probably gives you the most texture options that you could possibly have apart from the face itself. Now once you got the stem done, if you want to carry any of those texture options from the stem down to the face, now you get to do it with impunity. And it is just great. I'm going to go give this a quick wipe with a damp cloth to take all the paper mache paste off. Let this dry, and yeah, I'll be back when that's done. Some drying time has elapsed, and it's time to get to work on the stem. All freshly, happily rigid. Back to paper clay, and it's time to have some amazing fun. Even more so, because it looks like I haven't yet used this batch paper clay. Give it just a quick squidge around. Hey, a plastic piece. Yuck. Any parts that you have mached over previous paper clay, just cover up with more paper clay. If you are not using the mottled skin method, obviously be using your brush and mache paste to smooth everything out. If you are using the mottled skin method, who the hell cares? Just throw it on. I would love to do some more modifications of this right now, but I really want this thing to firm up a bit. And I'm just worried that if I start tacking onto the bits, when your paper clay gets too thick, then it takes it much longer to dry. And in that interim stage, if it's a really thick piece and you've got a couple sandwiched together, possibly a few mold spores could germinate underneath. They're not going to survive because it's going to dry out readily enough. But it's just better to work from a position where it's strength and it's strong and it's not going to flop all around. I realize how terrible this is sounding as I say it, but that's how you want to work with your pumpkin, damn it. So we're going to let this firm up and then come back and add a whole lot more crazy kooky detail. And as I'm thinking about this project, there is another thing I wanted to try if I can find some yarn. So fade to black and resume after hardening. God damn it. And after yet another fade to black, we are back. This stem is firmed up quite a bit. So it's still not totally dry, but I can live with that at this point. It'll give structure, things aren't bouncing around. I'll probably do the last bit of actual paper clay modeling today, depending on how this goes. I'm going to make some runners off of this stem that go every which way. Be on the lookout for little cracks that appear every now and again if your paper clay dries quite quickly. Sometimes pieces will separate off. And just smear a little more paper clay into the crack and it's fixed. Never have to worry about it again. What I do with the projections like these, assuming you want to do anything similar to them, is make them as just paper clay worms. Lay them down where you want them to go. Make sure you get all of them that you want done, and then worry about mushing them together. kind of plot your grid first and then assemble them. I've got most of them done, so I'm just going to start smushing the others in. This is just a matter of rolling the base of it so it melds pretty well with the pre-existing paper clay. Don't forget to squish it down so it bonds flat to the existing paper clay as well. It's no good doing the edges if you leave a huge gap straight square underneath. So mush down and then meld the edges. If you have any trouble with this stage, you can also make your own tools. Just take a dowel and sand or mold the edge however you see fit. If you find a spot that's hard to get into, or just is not panning out the way you want it to, make a specialized tool. This one mushes edges in pretty well. But I still prefer my hands whenever I can get to it. And for the 10 zillionth time, if you are not doing the mottled skin look, give it all a brush over at the end with your paper mache paste. Ha! Tasty. The main thing we're really concerning ourselves right now with, especially if you're going for the modeled look, is texture. We want this stuff to be as ridgy and bumpy and stand out from the main body of the pumpkin as possible. You want lots of texture. Because when you go over this with the skin that will provide the mottled effect, the only thing your paintbrush is going to care about that's going to come rising out of this paper mache, paper clay glee is all the bumps and ridges. And that is the true key. Texture, texture, texture. I would recommend you don't keep your stem too plain. If your stem is all just a straight coated paper cone section, take a few pieces of paper clay and add a few bumps to it. Don't have to be big, about the size of an almond. Just give yourself a few weirdo ridges. Helps contribute to the, I don't want to say realism, because it's a very unreal shape for an actual pumpkin. But it definitely helps flavor the shape, make it a little bit more visually appealing. I'm just doing one final sweep through here. So I've got as much of my modeling done as I really want to do. I am looking for any exposed areas of paper around the teeth. And if I see any, like I just did, I'm going to patch it with a wad of paper clay so it's pretty well sealed. You're going to have some paper that sticks out around the teeth. There's just no getting around it. Hopefully, during painting, it will solve itself as the paint settles in and kind of aggregates around it. The modeling on this pumpkin is done. Done as I want. So here's what we got around the stem. A whole bunch of veiny projections, because that's what I was going for. The stem itself has a couple of new projections on it. And there we go. It looks awful. It's beautiful. Perfect for Halloween. Okay. Time to throw this guy under a fan, let him dry, and then when we get back to it, it's time to add his skin. If you are not going for the modeled look, you are done but for sealing and painting. But if you are going for the modeled look, you have one more pretty easy step to accomplish. So I will see you when we get back to that.